Are there any basic criteria for a lay collaborator? I would say the same criteria as for a Jesuit. Familiarity with the gospel, I would consider that a key factor. Familiarity with the gospel. So that the gospel is so much part of our life that we have become familiar. That doesn't mean that we become like some sects, no, that we learn text. It's not learning text. I never can remember no, until, well, now I can remember a little more. I can hear a text and say, this sounds like Matthew, and in that part of the gospel, because I have studied how the gospel proceeds, so it's a dynamic. Or this sounds like Luke on his way to Jerusalem, or that sounds like Mark. No? But I never remember text. But this is the familiarity of knowing that when the disciples had these kind of problems, they found what kind of answers. So when I have these kind of problems, where can I go? No? This kind of thing. So for me, and then second, I would say self-knowledge, and together with self-knowledge, which is a key factor in all religious interiorization, goes the inner freedom. Inner freedom, I would consider the basic Ignatian condition for any kind of discernment. If we are not free interiorly, we cannot discern. Yesterday, one of the questions I was addressed by the lay people was why there is so much reluctance in many lay people and as well as Jesuits towards community discernment. And I said, well, that question was addressed to me, so I had to say something. And it's not reluctance to accept community discernment. It's reluctance towards accept that the conditions are given. Because the important point of discernment is the conditions. Are we that free that we can discern? Are we so free that we can listen to the Spirit and move and be moved? Because most of the times we are not free. And we think A or B before the discernment, and after the discernment we continue to think A and B. And you see that the group has not moved. That means that no discernment has taken place. We have not heard the Spirit. And then we justify that and say, well, the Spirit tells me A, and maybe the same Spirit tells you B. Well, that's rationalization. If we really listen to the Spirit, its reality is the needs of people that dictate. No? And then we are willing to respond, like I'm sure you have experienced very much in your family. The family is the best place to learn discernment because you really care for your children and you care for your partners. And therefore you are free. That gives you an extra freedom. But when we are attached, and this is the key for any kind of Ignatian, let's say, growth, self-knowledge and inner freedom, so that we can change and we can grow. Because I think change and growth are essential to Ignatian spirituality. When a person stops growing, he has moved away from Ignatian process. And then I would say for lay collaborators, I think it might help to keep some kind of dialogue with Jesuit superiors. Not because the superiors are better than the rest, but because the superiors are responsible, and therefore to keep a dialogue so that what you have discovered enters the Jesuit discernment process, so that the superiors are helped by your discernment, and they can take that into account and so forth. And the same with communication with other Jesuits. A Jesuit gave an exhortation in Loyola, when Loyola was a scholasticate, full of scholastics. And he was a bit nervous about how to speak to scholastics in Loyola. And the superior told him, well, you could talk about the lack of detachment that there are among the scholastics. No? They are worried about the future. No? Will I be assigned to a university, to a school, to what? What can I do in the future? So this is a concern of the scholastics. So this priest told the scholastics, I hear that you are concerned about the future. Don't worry. Don't worry. If you are good for education, you will be assigned to a school. There is room for everyone. If you are good at preaching, you will be assigned to a parish. If you are concerned with social problems, you will go to a social center. And if you are good for nothing, you will be superior of the superior. The superior wasn't very happy, but the scholastics, yes. So now you know why I am the superior examiner.